Hello and welcome to Bright Blue Innovation. I'm your host, Lidia Paulinska. Today's episode is coming to you from the Mill Valley Film Festival. The festival was founded in 1977. The Mill Valley Film Festival is known as Filmmaker Festival because its heritage has been the attraction of significant pool of independent and international cinema creators, along with on-screen talent. This year's festival welcomed more than 75,000 attendees who were able to experience content from over 200 filmmakers from around the world. Our episode today gives you an inside look at the event from conversation with the organizer and film programmers of the festival. The interviews start with Mark Fishkin, one of the founders of Mill Valley Film Festival, who shared with us how he started the project 40 years ago and how the 3-day film event became a worldwide festival today. Zoe Elton, Director of Programming, talks about the festival initiative called Mind the Gap, focusing on women in the cinema industry. Concluding our discussion is a conversation with Janice Plotkin, senior programmer who also represents the California Film Institute. She shares some highlights from this year's event, including the special screenings celebrating 70 years of Polish animation, with a live performance by Polish animator Mariusz Wilczyński. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Mark, thank you very much for taking time and meeting us. And this Mill Valley Film Festival is the 40th, right?
It is. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, and under your leadership, and congratulations on that. So, please tell us what made you start it and what passion keeps you going for this long period of time.
It's a little bit of insanity, probably. I started the festival. It happened somewhat serendipitously, but what my passion was for quality cinema. And I was a little bit appalled when I moved here and saw that there were all these fantastic filmmakers who lived in Northern California, ranging from filmmakers like James Broughton, who came from the Beat era, who was a poet, to John Cordy, who was the inspiration for George Lucas and Francis Coppola to be here. But what I saw in theaters was the same film playing for 3 months at a time. And the serendipitous part is that I was a ceramic sculptor and a potter in a little town in Colorado called Ouray, and I was very close to Telluride, and I had a friend who had a restaurant and a bar, and I went to visit him in Telluride, and the first Telluride Film Festival was happening. So I had familiarity with a festival like that. So one thing led to another, and I got a group of friends together and first I bought the Saturday Night Movie, which is now 142 Throckmorton. So I was showing repertory films, but I literally, the day after I bought that theater, or bought the business, I went into the Mill Valley Art Commission and got a grant for $500.
Wonderful. So the festival over the years was growing and growing. This year's program is very diverse. And what's your favorite one? What's your favorite part?
The favorite part of the festival or favorite film?
Both?
Well, it's really meeting the filmmakers, which is frustrating at times because I hate it when I think that there's a filmmaker who's come and gone and I haven't even had a chance to say hello. But for me, that's really it, spending time with the filmmakers and presenting their work. But I tell everybody who works for us, if you want to volunteer, you want to be a staff member, and you're just interested in selling your screenplay or being an actor, this may not be the job for you. But if you enjoy standing in the back of the theater and looking at the result of your efforts and seeing the joy or the tears or the laughter or whatever on people's you just hear them, seeing the back of their heads, but experiencing the fruits of your labor and how much that means to an audience, then this is more likely the job for you. And that for me is the most important thing, is bringing these films here and supporting our two major constituencies, the filmmaker and the audiences.
I know that some of the filmmakers you actually follow from the beginning, and you brought them and introduce them to the audience as well. And it's just like some of the filmmakers, they coming back, returning to this
Absolutely, yeah.
festival, like Joe Wright this year.
Joe Wright's a perfect example. We showed his first film, Pride and Prejudice, and then we went on to show Atonement, and we went on to show most every film he ever made. And to have him back, because time does fly, not just the whole 40 years, but the 6 or 7 years since I had seen him last. And the same thing is true about many, many other filmmakers. Lou Diamond Phillips is here with a film called Quest, and he was here with Stand and Deliver, which we did the world premiere of, but probably even before. And I can name so many different filmmakers, but there's a mutual trust that happens and gift that they give to us. So with Rob Nielsen, when I approached him on year 2, when he had the film Northern Lights, which won the Camera d'Or in Cannes, and I said, we're a second-year festival, we'd like to premiere your film. Or Phil Kaufman, can I have the premiere of The Wanderers, which is being released by Warner Brothers? And they, in turn, have supported us in deeply meaningful ways.
So the cinema is actually changing a lot because of partly because of technology as well. There is so many options for the production and distribution of the films. So would you see the festival, the future of this festival, what is will be maybe the new categories of the films? Any vision?
That's a great question, and of course that's something that we have to live with every day. And I try to look at it as the glass half full, and we certainly don't believe we have any reason to look at what's happening in a negative way. That could be an ancillary way for filmmakers to make money and get independent films, or what I call diverse films, international subtitled films, films with no recognizable talent, documentaries, more visible. But right now, what is happening is disruption. So it's very difficult to make successes of certain kinds of films in a theatrical context. So when we started the festival, there were only maybe 10. I can't even name 10. When we built the Raffel 18 years ago, there weren't many not-for-profit independent theaters. Now, I'm part of a group called the Art House Convergence, and now I can tell you there's hundreds of theaters that are similar to the Raffel, but I also see disruption there. So we have to find ways to not only keep the theatrical experience, not just because we love it and it's that shared experience, but I think it's really important to the health of the film, the filmmaker, and the audience to have that shared experience. So there is deep concerns, and we at CFI are doing a few different things to try to help mitigate that.
So congratulations one more time, and many, many next years for Mill Valley Film Festival and your leadership.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
3 years ago, we started a women's initiative that we called Mind the Gap. So, in the London Underground, there's a little thing saying mind the gap to stop you falling into a gap. But we took that as in a sort of playful way, meaning we mind the gender gap. So over the last 3 years, what we've been doing in this initiative is to really look at the intersection between women and film, and also women, film, and technology. And it really came about because 20 or so years ago, I'd done a panel at Mill Valley Film Festival, and I'd done a little research, and I discovered that, there are around 7% of women directors in Hollywood, women, 7%. And then, fast forward to 2014, 2015, research was being done, and the percentage was the same. So I really wanted us as a festival to look at how we can really help shift the needle on the gender gap in the film industry. And we've also embraced technology because the same issues that we experience in film also exist in pretty much every area. But, technology obviously is really important to the film industry, and it's very important to us in the San Francisco Bay Area.
So when you're talking about the women filmmakers, are you also, there's another area of women writing the story for the films, women working maybe as a producer as well. So are you going to extend this plan also for this program for the women, that they are not just filmmaker, but also producer and story writers.
Absolutely. So really, I think what we've been doing at the film festival is a way of being in, of giving an example of what other people can do in their working lives or in their film festival lives. As we go into choosing films for the film festival, we track how many films are directed by women, how many are produced by women, how many are written by women. We also track the nature of the storytelling. So we look to see if the film story that is being told has characters that have agency, whether they're active or whether they're reactive. Because it tends to be historically, in a lot of films, a lot of actresses would find that they were being cast as the mother, the sister, the daughter, the grandmother. And there was never a sense of character, of somebody who was really owning their life. So we look for that in the storytelling as well, regardless of whether the film was made by a man or a woman or, whomever. So it's been a great education for us just to do this. And I think doing it means that we begin to understand it more, and our audiences come to understand it more, and that we can bring that into our awareness of films and our awareness of what we do.
There's also the other factor that it's changing cinema, what is technology, accessibility of technology, because the cost of accessing the equipment, it's much less than used to be in the past. So what do you think, how is that changing cinema, and how that influence this festival? It will be bringing the new categories for the films, or what is going to...
Good question. I mean, I think really with access comes responsibility. With storytelling comes responsibility. It's interesting, just as you see that more people can, get their hands on equipment and can make films, what becomes really important is that they actually also become filmmakers. Many people can actually make a film, but it doesn't necessarily make them a filmmaker. So I think that as a festival, what we can do is to encourage new work by showing it, to encourage discussion about new work by some of the panels that we do during the festival, where we really bring together people in the film industry who are doing significant work in many different areas of the business, so that we can create conversation. And then also, we have a year-round education program. So as well as running the Mill Valley Film Festival, we have an umbrella nonprofit, the California Film Institute. We have an education program as well that runs year-round. So I think that a lot of the things that we do in the film festival in a public way also inform what we do, sometimes in a more private way, in our education programs.
So what is the point of this festival, this year festival, you're most proud of? Or, maybe the film, maybe the filmmaker?
A good question, because I think
You enjoy all.
Well, I do, yeah, but I would have to say that we did, with Mind the Gap, with the Women's Initiative, we did a summit last Saturday, and it was extraordinary. The energy around it, it went from 10 in the morning to 6 at night. There was an extraordinary group of filmmakers who came. There was incredibly, vibrant connection. And I feel that we really upped the game with that program. But there are other things that I feel honestly proud that we've managed to survive in a very difficult week for Northern California, and the fact that community comes together, that we can, in a way, address what we're dealing with as a community with the fires in Napa and Sonoma, partly through what we do and partly through, keeping our doors open and supporting the work and, discussion, whatever we can do. The other thing I've been noticing as the festival has gone its course is how many amazing directors we've had here this year. Really world-class, extraordinary directors. Dee Reese was here with Mudbound. Todd Haynes was here last night with Wonderstruck. Aaron Sorkin was here with his he's mostly known as a writer, but he was here with his first film.
It seems like this film festival keep the relationship with the directors. Some of them, they coming with the first film, and they just keep coming more and more. I noticed that like Joe Wright, who was at the opening night.
Yes, he was. Joe Wright was at our opening night film, Darkest Hour, and he was here years ago with his first film, Pride and Prejudice. I think it was his first film, Pride and Prejudice. When he was here, he brought Donald Sutherland to the festival. So yeah, it was pretty great.
Any plans for the next few years? What about the VR? VR this year,
Yeah.
I know that Mill Valley Film Festival has the first panel of the virtual reality. Is going to be expanded?
I think with any new technology, with anything that intersects with film, that it's important for us as a film festival to see where the intersections are and how they inform storytelling and how they inform our lives. We've done a little bit with VR, in the last few years. This year we have this wonderful piece, Tree. I don't know if you've done it, but
no.
Oh, go and do it. It's extraordinary. And it's been interesting. We have a lot of conversations with people to see what people are doing. And I think so much about what we're seeing in the world of VR is about empathetic understanding. And in the conversations that we had, there were several people who are using VR as a creative tool, but also as a tool for understanding and experiencing the world.
Mm-hmm. When you talk about the community, so how is that getting together?
Good question. I think we're in this very transitional stage in the world. And you see that very specifically in cinema. At a film festival, or with like the Rafael Film Center, where we have movies all year round, we bring community into one place to experience storytelling in film together. And of course, a lot of film storytelling now is something that you may receive at home or on your phone or in multiple different ways. And I find it fascinating. Dee Reese, who was here with her film Mudbound, this is a film that is very cinematic. It's very epic in the way that it's made, but she's going to be distributed through Netflix. So many people will experience it, either on a smaller screen or at home, and without that same kind of community. But I think a lot of young filmmakers are embracing that sensibility. I think it still becomes important for people to have,
social experience.
Yeah, the social experience with other people, and I think that. It's like coming together as a congregation. It's like this is the temple of creativity. But at the same time, the other ways are happening as well. And I think we experience community in a way that is different because we connect online in a way that we never did before. And that is happening. That is a part of what we're doing, but it's not the only way.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Janice, as a senior programmer for Mill Valley Film Festival, and also you're representing California Film Institute, tell us what is unique about this festival.
This is considered a filmmakers festival because although it's a large festival, it's held in intimate environment of Mill Valley and all the little towns around it. And you have more access to the audience, and filmmakers also have more contact with each other. That's part one. Part two, it's a place where you can see as an audience member the greatest movies that are going to be released for the year, as well as seeing experimental works, documentaries that won't be released, that you really get a full flavor of what is cinema internationally, both more commercial work as well as more artistic. Yeah.
And speaking about the cinema internationally, this year is a really wonderful event, 70 years of the Polish cinema, and I know that you are responsible for bringing these Polish films and Polish animation. Tell us about more.
I think this is the most creative program we've ever had. It was really at the suggestion of the Polish Film Institute as a concept, an idea, and we thought that having Mariusz Wilczyński as a guest, doing live animation with collaboration with music, was outstanding idea, very cool, and we were very excited to do this, and we just ran with it. I mean, immediately we wanted it, and we actually thanked the Polish Film Institute and the Polish Cultural Institute and Polish Cinema for making it possible, because it was a complicated enterprise, and they helped us every step of the way, everything. And then we returned with a large and appreciative audience that attended the screening. And I wanted to say also that the audience had many of the best local animation artists who worked in film, not digital. And so they had a special appreciation for what Mariusz is doing. And we understand here and appreciate here what is animation art, as opposed to the commercial uses of animation. We love Mickey Mouse, but we know that there's many other ways of expressing art as animation, and want to appreciate the body of work from Poland, which is so significant and really led the way in terms of art, as animation is art, and auteur animation.
So the live performance was the artist, like Mariusz Wilczyński, who is actually very acclaimed artist in Poland, and he works with wonderful Polish musician like Tomasz Stańko. I know that because I just returned from Poland, and I have had a chance to meet him there. So Mariusz is doing his animation, and the musician, inspired by his art, are playing the music to this art.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is true, and they only met to rehearse the day before. I saw that there were emails going on what would the process be, but they had one rehearsal the day before, and it was pretty much improvisation on the part of three musicians. They're called Trance Mission.
And they are local
They're
musicians, right?
two of them are local, and one is from Los Angeles. They do clarinet and didgeridoo. One of the artists, Stephen Kent, plays the Australian didgeridoo, which is such an awesome sound. And then Peter Valsamis is a percussionist. And the band was put together by Beth Custer, who's a local jazz and does music for silent films, as well as we saw with animation. So she's had some experience doing this before.
So for this year, 70 years of Polish animation, and also other Polish film, like Agnieszka Holland-Spur and film by
Wojciech Haas. We're showing in an hour a film restoration, digitally restored new version of The Sandglass by Wojciech Haas. Actually, one of my favorite films of time travel, time tripping, psychedelia. I also am I'm well aware of Bruno Schulz's writings, and I know that this film was based on one of his short stories, and I feel like it's almost a beautiful collaboration between the ideas, and also to preserve the memory of a great Polish writer and artist, Bruno Schulz.
I know that it's also the book by
Annette Insdorf.
Yes,
Yeah.
and she wrote the book about Kieślowski, the cinema of Kieślowski, or the films of Kieślowski, and now she released the book about Wojciech Haas, was another maybe not that well known internationally director, but in Poland absolutely iconic director from his time.
So something funny you should know about is that one of Wojciech Haas's films, the Saragossa manuscript, was a favorite film by the founder of this rock group called the Grateful Dead. Jerry Garcia considered the Saragossa manuscript his favorite film. And this helped popularize that film in America because he's a rock and roll icon who sadly passed away. But yeah, you're right. The average person doesn't know Wojciech Haas, but Grateful Dead heads do.
Oh, absolutely. And there are other American directors like Martin Scorsese who also kind of promote the Polish cinema. It's maybe not that well known, but by having these iconic people who are saying, okay, that's my favorite film, or I follow this film or something, it really make that happen. So, finishing discussion about this year, so tell me one thing that you would like to happen in 2018 for the next festival.
2018 for the next festival, I look forward to, I would say, because of this experience with 70 years of Polish animation, I hope we continue to take artistic risks and think outside the box. But I know that typically we wait to see what is the best cinema from the world and build programs around it. So the Polish focus at the Mill Valley Film Festival probably started with our Seeing Spore, Pokot, and then the Polish animation came to us. Then we found out about the digital restoration. So these things, there's a certain organic development of our programming. And also, I'm sure we will continue with a program, an initiative called Mind the Gap, which is looking at the gap between men and women in directing films. It's a particularly acute problem in the United States, where only 7% of the films directed in Hollywood are directed by women. We made a goal that in 2020 we will have 50% of our program directed by women. It's 2017, and we have 44%. So we're working close for it. We're going to continue with that. And send me more films from Poland. I think it's, how would you say? It's some of the best cinema in the world. It's comparable to French New Wave, and I just feel like alone, just Andrzej Wajda, Zanussi, Kieslowski, Polanski, Agnieszka Holland. This is quite a significant group of film artists, and we know that the next generation will be just as good.